Hello, this is KL2PQ again, ham radio in exile. My name is William Nimick. Welcome back to my channel. I wish to, I've made some videos already, and I wasn't very direct, and I wasn't very entertaining because I'm very nervous, because the idea of this channel is for me to get my farm back. And the only way I can do that is to make my channel successful. It's the only way I'm going to win, because in Alaska, where they took my farm away from me, the Superior Court and the government is very, very bad, and they become a lot worse. And I've been in public office myself in Alaska, and they're very corrupt. And I was a small farmer, and they kept getting worse and worse and worse, and I kept getting caught up into it, and then fighting it back bigger and bigger and bigger, until after a few years it turned into a big major thing. Now my goal in life is, I'm a small farmer and I build radios, and I don't want money or power. I love family, and I love working with my hands, and I'm caught in a bad spot. I am in exile, for truly in exile. I am in danger, and I will be able to show that in the movies. But my point is, I was in a situation in which I could give up everything and just lose and run away. I'm turned 69 years old today, and I got to the point where I just wanted to give up on life, and I lost everything, and I got beat down, and they took away my trucking company and my farm and my career and my money and my retirement. I faced many wicked things in Superior Court, and I didn't break any laws. This is one of the reasons I'm in trouble, is that I don't break any laws. I believe in the rule of law. I'm a veteran. I believe in God, and I believe that you must be mature enough in life to stand up and have honor and integrity when it comes to human rights and human nature. Now, I want to show you many things, but I want to tell you something. I have a Mennonite background, and I get in a lot of trouble from my friends. I grew up and everything. Don't even say that name. Well, this is the point. I don't. I stand on my own feet for what I believe. In Southeast Asia, you know, I'm not here. I go to the Catholic Church. The thing of it is that I'm a true believer, and I don't care about political goat roping. That's my word, because I'm a farmer. I'm thinking, believing in God is real, about how you live and how you show and how you be. And there's a lot of religious, my word, political goat ropers. That's not me. I believe in caring about the poor and being good and to love thy neighbor. And I believe, because I'm a veteran, and I believe in defending freedom and the rule of law. And that's what's got me losing my farm and my family, and originally, is I won't compromise. Now, I'm in Southeast Asia, and I need your support in this channel, because that's the only way I can fight back. I've lost all my financial support, and I went back to Alaska and built a new company, and they illegally took some of my heavy equipment and broke my contract. And the Alaska Superior Court put me in such a financial burden that I couldn't possibly win, because they controlled the Indians and the wagons, and there was nothing I could do. And so I come back to Southeast Asia in a hurry, the third time. Now, I did 2 terms in office in Alaska, and I ran for governor, and I ran for his Congress, because I wanted to protect freedom to hang on to my farm. And it kept getting worse and worse, because in Alaska is the last frontier. And anyway, so that's how we go. Anyway, I want to show you around here. I live in Mindanao, and that's in Southeast Asia, right north of Malaysia. And Mindanao is a big island, and it's under the Philippine government in Manila, but Mindanao is like the last frontier of the Orient. Anyway, of Southeast Asia. I want to show you something. You hear, when I watch on the videos for YouTube, I see Glasslinger and other people with the cat, and Paul Carlson, you know, and everybody. Very nice channels. I love to watch YouTube on the ham radios, but I want to show you, they all have cats. But I want to show you what I have here. I have a baby monkey. She's brand new. She isn't very old, so she doesn't go anywhere. and she doesn't know people very well yet, and she's pretty cute. And anyway, when she gets a little more mature, I'll build her a bigger cage. But anyway, her name is Lolo, and she's a girl.
Lily.
And she's, excuse me, what did I say wrong?
Lily.
Lily, not Lolo, I say it wrong. Anyway, this is a baby monkey, and she's pretty sweet. She's not mean or anything. I want to tell you why I got a monkey. I got to tell you a story. I had a friend here ways away, and he had a boy monkey, and I used to go there and feed it donuts, and it was very funny. And he's a mechanic, and the monkey be outside when we're working all the time, and he was a lot of fun. Anyway, a mean dog in the middle of the night went to his house. He has a family, and the mean dog came in the house at night, and he was very bad. And anyway, he got in a fight with the monkey, and he tore the monkey all up. And then we find out then the monkey's in really bad shape, and the monkey started getting well. And then the monkey got sick, and the monkey died of rabies. And we found out that the monkey fought the dog because it had many children there, and the monkey saved the family. And the monkey gave his life to protect the family in the house. And so I got pretty impressed with that. And this monkey was kind of cute. He'd wear diapers in the house at night. Because he run around, and during the day he didn't wear diapers. But anyway, to tell you, so I got the idea of a monkey, you know, and I like horses. In Alaska, there definitely is no monkeys. But anyway, this is my pet, and I want to tell you something. And another thing I want to show you is yes, okay. Anyway, with ham radio, I have my American ham radio license, KL2PQ, but in this country I got to have a permit. Now this is much different than the U.S. Laws in this country you don't mess with, some of them pretty serious, and so I don't dare use a radio without being legally qualified with the government. A pretty serious crime, and I won't. And so you never see me with a radio that's in condition where it's hooked up where it can transmit, because I won't. I'll follow the law. And anyway, but I want to show you up here. I have a 20-meter antenna set up for 20 meters. And after I build this antenna, a roof was built next door and got much closer. I need to make a Moxon antenna, a different kind. But anyway, I'm going to show you that I do have a 20-meter antenna. And I want to show you something. The reason I'm showing this is the lines coming down the wires. Now, I believe in the ladder system. Now, in Alaska, I built many radio antennas, and I used to spend a lot of money and put dual coax cables. I would measure them exactly the same length, and I would think, oh, well, I got a ground on each cable. And then I had a ground on both cables. And then I found out after building a lot of antennas, messing with it, it worked much better, not use coax at all, not even dual lines and ground the outside. Leave them open because they balance. Now I believe the best way to make a ham radio antenna is cut them the right length and work it so you don't need a tuner. And that's the way the old timers did it, and I love tube radios. And when I build radios, I'll cut the length and I'll change them until I get them a perfect match as much as that I can. And that's why I like the dual lines and not a coax cable. Now I either go 6 inches or 8 inches, and I use, you know, pipes in between them. Anyway, so I just wanted to show you that in this house I have a 20-meter antenna only so far, and this is a house I built. Anyway, yes, this is a friend of mine's horse, and it's not grown yet, but he's used on his farm for hauling corn and for working and hauling people, mostly hauling corn and to farm. And in the mountains here, they're very steep, and the tractor's not any good, and the country's very rough in the mountains. Everybody uses horses to farm or carabao to plow, and that's the way it's done here. Now, I learned a lot about agriculture here. It's a lot different than the Arctic. Much different, but I learned here things about natural seed selection. I've always been involved with that a lot because I know how to make winter wheat work in Alaska, which they don't think you can do, but you can. But I've learned a lot about natural seed selection, and here I've watched him plant the ways almost 5,000 years old, and so I've learned a lot about natural seed selection here to how to plant by using your environment. And actually, the things I've learned here will help me be a better farmer in Alaska also. Anyway, that's the horse, and I just want to show it to you. And we're going to go somewhere else. Yes, in the last section, in the last video we made, I started to tell you about building this and why. I'll explain it again really careful. When you're building a radio, you know, I explained this before, but I'll go quick. You know, when you're going to lose interest, you know, you make a crystal radio is really important. Because if you get the right tuned circuit in the crystal radio, it's a very good radio, and you can amplify it, add to it, and you can make changes and keep that one circuit. There's one circuit with crystal radio that is very good, and you can modify and add to it and make a preamp, all kind of different parts, and actually build it into a pretty good radio. But anyway, what happens is, I explained this before, it's easy to lose interest because you see something you made, it works, and you know, what have I really got? How did it really work? How did I know how many coils, how many windings in the circuit, in the tank circuit would make it work, or how much capacitance? It's all pre-done for you, and you copy it, and then when you want to build something else, you know, you copy it or buy a kit, but you really understand. You know, I'm not really good at the math. I explained this last time. When I got my radio license, my extra, I had logarithm math, which is a bloody nightmare. And I've been a big business manager, and I've managed in Denali Park in Alaska, I managed the buses. I've been a materials controller manager in the largest gold mine in Alaska in the past, and I've been a lead fueler and manager in Prudhoe Bay. You know, I've done a lot of things, but you know, mathematics is, you know, and the business math and all kind of math is different. Anyway, what I want to say is that you don't have to be a genius to learn how to make frequencies work, or how to adjust them, or how to line coils. And I've made this machine in a simple way, so before you start building a lot of radios, if you see what you have going, I'll explain it. It'll make it easy to understand what you're doing. So if I have a capacitor and a diode and a roll of wire, and then I go on from there, or I like to use tubes. So if I have tubes or you know, on some really fast transistors. Anyway, so I'll explain this. All this is this is an amplifier I cut apart. This is a signal tracer. Now, anytime you got a signal coming in, you can listen for it, and you can follow it and amplify it, and you know where it is. Like if you're making a repair in an old radio especially, or you're building a new one, say you wind some coils and there's nothing coming out. Well, you follow it and see where you think you have a problem is, or where it's broken down. Now, so a signal tracer will do what it says. It traces the signal with an amplifier. So I got these plugs, and I got different test leads for all of them to do different things. Now this here will tell you what your frequency is, a digital readout. And these are not real expensive. None of this stuff is really expensive. Now, you know, this here is, I have this wired all in, and there's another plug right here. This one is going to here. And this one here is going to the signal tracer, and this one here is going to this one. Now the reason these are like that is so if you got them all in one group, you don't have things scattered all over the table and trying to figure out what you're doing. And you need to have it simple so you can have a good tool to see what you're building or how you're winding. So say you wind a coil, and you want to get it right where it's balanced in the middle of the capacitor so you get the full range of the frequencies you really want to see, then with this here you should be able to do it. Now if this doesn't work right, when I get it completed or it's going, on the videos we will change it, we'll modify it, and we'll make it working right. Now this has never been used, I just built this. That when you make your own, if you make your own, just see the components here. Now there's not very much to it. Let's see. This one here is a signal generator. Now this is you see these all over eBay and different places. There's different kinds. These things aren't really expensive. So if you break one of these or they're a failure, you can throw it away without too much expense and change it to something else. This is just a plain piece of metal. This is metal. And then I cut these by hand because I'm in Southeast Asia. Electronic parts are really, really hard to get here. So it's taken me quite a while to build this. Now, the reason I just sat in here and wanted to tell you was the power supply is going to be batteries. I had to run all over the little village here to get some shrink tubing. And so I got some. So now this is pretty well wired in the backside except for the power supply. And I'll show you. I've got, see, I use a miniature coax cables and there's real good connections and everything here. See, so I did a really clean job. So then, you know, you want to be clean and accurate. Like Paul Carlson says about being accurate and doing a good job, it makes all the difference in the end. And it does, especially where you place components in relationship to each other. Now this here is just a simple amplifier, and I took a little portable amp and I cut the parts out and I just mounted them in here. And this in here, of course, I just cut it and mounted that in here, and it just came in a little cellophane bag. And then this voltmeter is the same thing, and then this is a frequency generator. It's all the same. Now I'm going to put batteries in here, and I want to put on a 9 volt, so I use quite a few. So then I have no voltage regulator, voltage stability, and then I'll have everything hooked up really simple and easy to monitor and easy to use. Now I'm just showing you this because building your own equipment, thinking. Now you see what you have here when you're learning how to build something. You're learning some senses, just like in politics or farming or anything you got to do in life. Look, hear, see, and think. You know, you can look at everything you have there and really see it. And you listen, really hear what it's doing. You can think out and reasoning how everything is coming together. Now this switch over here has got a two-way. At first it'll just be turning on the circuits and turning them all off on the batteries. But probably later I'm going to have a charger. And I flip it the other way, maybe I'll have some batteries that are chargeable. And then that way you can, you know. Now the reason I got this cheapo kind of voltmeter, and it's really important. You see it's got a needle in it and it's showing you analog what it is. Now, if you're going to build a circuit with tubes or something, and you get into low voltage, which I'll try to build a radio with everybody in low voltage, you want to see where you're at, and when you adjust things, you want to see the voltage gain and loss. And then you got an idea, with everything else is working, where you're at, what's more efficient, especially when you add in an amplifier or in your tuned circuit. Especially this year be handy because I want to use tubes and regen. So the voltmeter tied in, so you can tie this into your circuit and watch the voltage, and you can use this here to follow the sound. Use this to follow the frequency. And this here to read the frequency coming out in the other end. You want to see what frequency is coming through and what you're picking up. Anyway, so I'm going to get out of this for a while. I got to do some more work to it, and then it'll be finished. Now this is very simple building material. So if you got the idea that you want to build radios, and that you want to get your hands on it, you don't have to be excellent at math or anything, but you want to understand where you're at. You want to see a frequency that comes in, what it's going to be, and you can set it to what you're producing. Say you have some desire of what kind of receiver you want, what frequency. You set your frequency for what you want, and then you build your tune circuit to fit that. You can see the tune circuit working, and then you can build the rest of your radio and test it. Now that's the idea, to save time. Now since I'm in Southeast Asia, parts are hard to get. It probably looks a little strange to build it this way there, but in your own house, in your own radio room, you can take a little panel and put on the wall or something, build all this into it, and have to be portable. Here we have a terrible, terrible problem with ants. And you wouldn't think this would be possible because it blew my mind when I got here. Ants will go into the circuit and they will ruin anything that switches. Ants sense the carbon and they will ruin the switch. I mean, I lived in the house here in the bigger town next to here, the village, and they would eat my switches all the time. I mean, the ants would come in, and it was a terrible time with ants and electricity. You know, know, you never think in America ants could hurt electricity, but they feel the carbon in there. Anyway, that's why I got that. And I wanted to just show you, when you're learning, break everything down. Now, I'm a small farmer, so I break everything down, and I study natural seed selection. And so that's stress. Now, I want to tell you about life. Stress, controlling stress is how things work and how you're successful. Now, tubes. And when you're using tubes, I love low voltage tubes because you can control the stress. When you're planting seeds, if you learn in agriculture to control the stress. Now, they don't teach that in college very much, but I will show you about stress here. Anyway, I'm going to go on to something else, but once you get the gist of the idea, this is just regular housing building material that you get in Southeast Asia. You can make yours any way you want. These parts are probably, in your area, maybe $100, but they will open up the whole world of radio and frequencies and how to build tank circuits to see how they're going to work and whether they're working or not. So if you wire a coil backwards and something's not fitting, it won't work, and then you can figure it out without saying, oh, you know, what do I got? I can't see nothing, I don't understand anything. You can see it. And that's the whole point of teaching ham radio, is to be able to teach somebody else something. And we have the most tremendous people, anyway, in radio online, so that's good. Yes, I'd like to, when I'm communicating with you, please listen to me and get to know me really well in this, because this is the only way that I'm going to be able to make this work, is to have support. I need to explain what happened that made me lose my farm. It was all illegal. And I want to show you why, because in the lower 48 or even in Puerto Rico, they could never do this. Alaska is very far away, and Alaska's checks and balance system and government not very constitutional sometimes at all. And I want to explain that, but I know everybody's bored in politics, but I need your love and support to see what I'm doing, because the only way I'm going to be able to fight to get back my farm, which took me 35 years to build, I fought bears at 70 below zero, all kind of discomforts way in the bush, and I built my own road. I built a successful farm with no debt, and they just took it away by illegal means. Anyway, I want to show you the gist of this so you can kind of get an idea of why I'm really truly in exile. I'll show you. I'll try to keep it really simple. It's hard for me not to go on and on and on and bore everybody, because I'm really close to this. This has been my whole life for 35 years. So I'm trying to find a way to show you without burning down the bridge before you walk across it, so because I'm not a good Hollywood actor or nothing. But now let me explain to you what happened. About 35 years ago, they opened up homesteading, and they'd opened it up before, and I turned it down. But then this time, I took it and I got my farm, and this here is Fairbanks, Alaska. Now, if you go in Fairbanks and you drive south, there's a little town called Nenana, and it's both a little town and a native village of the Athabasca Village Hall. And that Nenana, and then when you go farther than that, then this is my farm down here. And you see, so it's quite a ways, so altogether maybe 80 miles. And then farther down there is another town called Healy. Now my farm was, this is the road, my farm was 5 miles in. But years ago there was no road, I built the road. And then and I had to get grid coordinates and figure out the spot. And then the Forest Service had put some grid coordinates in the trees on some yellow tags, and that's why I finally found out how to stake my farm. I went in there, it was loaded with bears, and you wouldn't believe it. It's like I went into the bear, and it's all changed now, it's not the same. There were black bears in the old days, now there's grizzlies, the black bears are gone. But anyway, as I came down here, and as I got my farm, there was changes being made more and more in the government. And there was an aggressive movement of Agenda 21 and the globalist movement, and then there was also a real hatred by the wealthier people that come to Alaska of the mentality of the last frontier homesteader. The person went out in the bush and worked with his hand, the trapper or the people in the native village, that believed in true Western American freedom. You see, there was no governments of controlling anybody, and people were very, very independent and self-sufficient, and actually very honest, because the way of life demanded that. And so that's how I started out, and I was in my really young 20s. I'm 69, today's my birthday, so I lost everything. I'm in Southeast Asia, but I loved my life, and I did many good things for everybody in the old days. So I just want to explain to you how I got into condition in history a little bit, so maybe I can try to relate to you that you can understand why I won't give up. Anyway, I came down here, and when I got my farm, I had to earn it by proving up. I had to live there so long, I had to build such a size of house, clear so much land, meet all the requirements to get title. And when they got done with this process, and when they closed it out, the government's politics had changed so much, they didn't like anybody even having the record that they had to prove up homestead. They wanted the government to say to give it to them, or they bought it, and they didn't like that. So when I was closing out my farm, my paperwork, they tried to get me to sign out that oh, you don't have to prove up any farther because we're going to title you anyway. And I says, no. I says, you made a contract with me and I signed it. You're going to sign that I legally proved up and passed to get my farm, because my grandfather did that in 1916. And I said, and I was raised that way to be free, and I earned it. I don't want you signing it. So in my record in the state of Alaska, it's supposed to say that I earned it. Now, I believe under the historical records of the United States, I am the last person. Now, this is my belief because of what I've been going through in politics. I believe that I'm the last American homesteader that legally acquired his land by homesteading in the record of the United States. I believe that because everybody else was faking out of it and I wouldn't do it. Anyway, that's one point I wanted to make. But in the Indiana River drainage area here, nobody here had ever raised grain and thrashed it. Now, they had other side of Indiana, they did. And they had on the other side of the other river, not the Indiana River, and there was farming there back in the old days during the gold rush. But on my side, I believe that I'm the first one that ever thrashed grain, ever produced a grain crop, and by record, I'm pretty sure that I'm right. So I put everything into building my farm. My farm is 160 acres. I was expanding to 300 more acres when they attacked me, and they took everything. But I worked all my life, and when I got close to age to retire, I was going to work full-time farming. So anyway, how this goes back in history was, I homesteaded over here many, many years ago. And then they come in and they try to build a government against the will of the people. And it was being forced on them and being lied to with them. And so we didn't want to lose our rights and our freedom as rural Alaskans. And this other branch of government that was political people, they believed in globalism, and a lot of them believed in the ideology, and a lot of them come from Utah. And these two people finally, in the 2000s, these guys united and very powerful, and they run the Superior Court. Not necessarily to rule the law, and that's what got me in a lot of trouble. Anyway, so what happened was, I got my farm here, and then they come in and try to force a rural government against the will of the people. Well, I had friends, and the head of the university, Dr. Wood, and then the man that made the Alaska Independence Party, Bill Wally, Bill Wally was the mayor. The man that made Alaska Independence Party was Joe Vogler, and then the Fairbanks City Mayor. It helped us doing research. He was in the meeting, he did research for us. And then we had a Bobby Miller. Bobby Miller was the one that put the steel in Alaska pipeline. Now, since I'm older, this history is important. I want you to see where I'm at and what kind of trouble I got into. Anyway, Bobby Miller bought a motor pool from the United States government, the United States Army, and he sent all the steel to Japan to produce the steel for the pipeline to come back as pipe. And then Joe Vogler had come to power, built the Alaska Independence Party, which put in 1.5 governors because they wanted to remain free with nobody controlling the Western way of life in the bush. And they were most powerful, but we've got a huge enemy growing and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it got to the violence. And Joe Vogler was murdered. And now I know that the murder, it looks like many, many different evidences that the man that went to prison did murder somebody, but not him. We believe that he was murdered by somebody else. And then our Senator Ted Stevens, it looks also, if you do the logarithm in criminology, logarithm math, and you look at how much risk you are in a certain population, a certain status, Alaska definitely doesn't have a lot of coincidences. These people are dead, and they got me in trouble. Now, I've learned escape and evasion in the military, and I've done it 3 times. Now, please understand that I am a simple farmer. I want to stay home. I don't want to change the world, and I don't want, and last thing I want is some power. But I've been attacked over and over and destroyed my family because I wouldn't give up my principles and what I believe. So what happened when the government came in, they had a petition, I wrote a petition with Dr. Wood, Joe Vogler, Bobby Miller, and then Bill Wally, the mayor of Fairbanks, did the research. It's called the Last Frontier Petition. And so we placed it in the city of Cantwell, in the city of Healy, and in these are not cities, I just call them cities and towns. So Cantwell, Healy, and Nenana. Well, what happened years ago is the one in Cantwell got stolen in the petition. So then the next petition, I wrote a petition in Fairbanks, these 4 men. Anyway, so then they went and they stole the one out of Healy. But in Nenana, a friend of mine owned a restaurant, and a woman was stealing it, and we caught her. This was a long time ago. This is what's got me in the edge where I was always going to lose my farm in the end. I didn't know it at that time. But anyway, so then we caught her, and then we called the U.S. Marshal, the pastor of the church in Nenana, and he called the U.S. Marshal. And when we had the woman detained, now we had to be really careful we don't break the law. And I worked in law enforcement into the pipeline. I knew that we couldn't hold her or we couldn't transport her. If you transport somebody on a homemade arrest, you're going to be in big trouble with the law. We'll call that kidnapping, whether you think you're legal or not. So we called the U.S. Marshal. The U.S. Marshal was a very good man, and this was at Nenana, right here. And the people in Nenana, where I'm at, the Athabasca people, my friend, they owned the restaurant where she was caught. And so then we called the U.S. Marshal. U.S. Marshal was a very nice guy, and we explained that the woman had it. She ID'd herself, but she worked for the state. I said, we got a state government official here stealing the public petition. What do we do? I says, she stole it, and we were having a real problem down here. And he was right on top of it. He said, I'm almost ready to retire at 30 years. He says, I'm into this one. And he said to us, I'm going to try to help you. So then he got on his phone and he called the U.S. District Attorney, I think at that time in Anchorage, and all heck broke loose. And he told him that he was violating the state's rights. So the U.S. Marshal said, no, it's the state that's stealing the petition, the right of the people. It's not violating the rights. The rights are being violated. And of course, he was an old Alaskan, and he was like us. He wanted freedom and a pretty good guy. He believed in the rule of the law. And so they threatened his job. And so it got worse and worse and worse. And so he argued back with the district attorney. He called us. They're going to take my pension, and they're going to say I violated the ethics and directions of the federal government. You know, he said, I'm in a lot of trouble here. So we made a big mistake. At the time, we didn't think so. So Jim Ballweber was named the pastor, and the rest of us, we got together and we had a meeting, and we told the U.S. Marshal, don't come here to enforce the law because you've been serving your country for 30 years. These guys are really bad, and if you ruin your pension and everything you've done all your life, he says, that's terrible. You're just going to have to not come here. He didn't like that, but he respected us because we're the ones that had to swear to complain. And now that I'm older and more mature, I'm going to tell you what I did wrong. Senator Ted Stevens, the one that's dead, that got killed in a mysterious airplane crash now. Anyway, he would have been, I didn't know it now because I was in my young 20s. I wasn't mature enough in government to know what was going on this way. We should have, at that time, stopped everything and got a hold of Senator Ted Stevens to protect the U.S. Marshal's job and protect his pension. He could have done it right off, and then he would have investigated it. Because in them days, the political climate in Alaska, this globalist idea, they didn't have a strong hold on it yet. They didn't have a strong hold, and the Utah politicians didn't gain so much power at that time. And so it would have worked, but we, young, feeling sorry for him, going to lose his pension, we walked it off. And then after that happened, they shoved the government in against our will. So I was running for mayor and got into an automobile accident, so I wasn't hurt bad, but I was banged up. And so my friend, I worked with his wife for 11 years, my friend, we talked him into becoming the first mayor of their government that they coerced, they made. So he became the mayor, and then I got elected as a representative also. Well, what happened was when he was the mayor, they had a real wicked, kind of like, I don't know if you call it communism, globalist movement or anything, but they had their own agenda that absolutely wasn't the will of the people, and they were trying to build and control government. In Alaska, there's a mindset to build, like other people want to come to Alaska to have freedom, there's another mindset for other people to come and have a total monopolized socialist world order control, and it's getting worse and really bad right now. That's the reason I'm in Mindanao. But anyway, what happened, my friend, he was the mayor, and then what happened is he wouldn't go along, and they pushed and pushed and pushed. So then at Clear Air Force Base, where he lived by, it was a bad winter. You know, he was very poor, and his wife worked with me, and he worked, and people were starving trying to buy fuel. And Alaska is a rough son of a gun in the wintertime. It's expensive, and a lot of people have trouble getting work. Anyway, he had a bad winter, so the man driving the fuel truck, this is really important, because if they're watching this video, and the U.S. State Department's watching this video, or other police officers in Alaska that are supporting the scamming government, there's two kinds of police officers in Alaska. There's a good one and a bad one, I'm sorry, but that's true. And my friends have been hurt a lot through law enforcement, so I know who they are and what they are. Anyway, so what happened was, this friend of mine, Rick, he's the mayor, and he won't back off. So this guy comes through delivering fuel from Clear Air Force Base, and he says to him, I'm backhauling fuel, and so I can sell you some fuel discounts so I don't have to haul it all the way back to Nenana. Well, he's over here by a little ways from my farm, this way, Clear Air Force Base. Well, there's a little town here called Anderson. And in Anderson is where my friend lived, and then right at Clear Air Force Base. And so he said, okay, you can sell me fuel discount if you're gonna, when you come back with some empty, because I'm having trouble buying fuel. So he did that, and everything was fine. Now, the man that drove the fuel truck, and listen to me about him, it's really important to hear. Anyway, so what happened was the government went after my friend for stealing from the federal government fuel. Well, that's a real strict thing, still for a military post. I mean, that's what are you going to do? And he's got an absolute monopoly of government around him in law enforcement, in the judicial system, in the executive system. The Alaskan political system is very, very dishonest. And he didn't have a chance anywhere to stand up to him. Same thing that took my farm. They were much more powerful now than they were then, but he was in trouble. So they told him, you're going to leave Alaska or we're going to prosecute you. So he was there with his family, and he loved the bush, and he loved Alaska, and I worked with his wife 11 years. He had to pack up and leave and resign as mayor. Now I'm going to tell you something. First we got the woman that's a liar that's stealing petition. And we got the blackmail from him, and then it got worse and worse and worse. And I had many, many fights with the state before they took my farm. So this man is gone now. So now they're running the borough government. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. So as this progressed along, there's been many infringements of the law. Many pushing for power and control that's wrong. And then, and I've got into a lot of trouble in my life from being honest. And I lost my farm and everything I have for being honest, for not backing off. But I want to tell you something. When I was young, nothing to do with this. I was in Fort Ord, California, and I was running, and we were getting ready, and all the war was on, and I volunteered. And I'm running beside a man named Cantrell. Nothing to do with the politics here. I want to tell you something. I was running on the beach with my M16 and training. This is before I was out of the boot camp. Anyway, I have a friend with me, Private Cantrell. He's running beside me, and he's my friend, and he grabbed his head. Oh, my head hurts. He fell down, and that was it. He died instantly. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is the importance of freedom in life. What did Private Cantrell die for in uniform? He died for being in a uniform for freedom. And he didn't, it wasn't in combat, but why is he gone? Well, this is what I think about America. I love my country, don't care about political party, better or worse, for the beginning in this meeting right now to tell you that I'm in a lot of trouble. I've lost my farm, my livelihood, and everything that I've done. I lost my trucking company and everything through many, many illegal means, but I fought back. So I got hit with a weapon and in the hospital, and I didn't know what it was. And the reason I ended up in Asia the first time was going to the hospital. Anyway, because I couldn't get an answer there, and a doctor in the U.S. that went to college in Asia, she sent me over here, and that's how I ended up here the first time. And what I have, ladies and gentlemen, is hard to explain. It's called Havana syndrome. Now, if you look, I'm a little bit numb and everything. I didn't have a stroke. I didn't have anything from blood pressure that made it come about. It was a weapon. And we couldn't figure it out. I was in the hospital in Fairbanks, and I went through many, many steps before I found out what it really was and how to fight it. And no matter what I went through, I don't have any medical service or any kind of insurance or anything to understand what's happening to me. And after they took my farm, I got hit with this thing. And I was in the hospital in Fairbanks, and the VA helped me many times. And I ended up in a hospital in Fairbanks, in the hospital in Southeast Asia, in the hospital in Texas. It took a while to figure it out. Now, I can't change any of that, and I'm not complaining about that. What I'm trying to tell you is there's a lot of evil powers out there that want to take away our freedom. Alaska is the last frontier, the last place where you can be free to go out and homestead and build a life, not encumbered by any politician, no matter what they are. Well, they're after that, and they're after me, and I did 2 terms in office. I ran for U.S. Congress in 1996, and I ran for governor because I believe in the rule of law. So I'm in trouble in Southeast Asia anyway, so I'm going to quit talking about that for right now because I don't want to burn you out on the video. This is what I need to do. They've taken all my financial interests. I went back and built a new company. And then I ended up in the court with that one, and the court just beat me up because they ruled in my favor. Because I was in right, the other person in the contract was being seduced by the government, and so I was winning. And then so the lower judge ruled in my favor, and then they got to bounce it through 2 more courts, and they placed me in such a financial arrangement trying to have protection, and I'm also on something else I'll talk about in a minute, I should have mentioned first. But anyway, so then I couldn't fight back anymore, so I lost. It was actually stolen from me, B5 track loader and a bunch of my investment. I built an apartment, and I had a new contract in another business, and I'm a very honest person, very simple. If I gotta take a loss, or I'm not greedy, if I gotta take a loss or lose something to try to make something work, I'm willing to do it. I'm not selfish. And so the point of it is that I went back to Alaska. I started over to do it again, and then I lost again. Now I'm here the third time. This time it got dangerous, much more dangerous when I come back the last time. And 2 times it got pretty hazardous. But when I ran for governor the last term, I went to Alaska, they put out a false warrant for my arrest. So this time when I went back, after things cooled down, I found a law enforcement officer, and it got really bad, and then he told me, "You've got 30 minutes to get out of my office." And so they're really upset with the special interest group. And unless you're in a position in life in which you will stand up to these kind of people, you will never know they're there. But I'm out here in trouble in Southeast Asia, but I'm not in trouble as I'm concerned. I'm getting hurt a lot, but anyway, here in Southeast Asia, life where I'm at is pretty rough. Well, I'm going to tell you what's happened to me. When I came here, a miracle happened, and even though I'm hurting and everything, I got to tell you about it. And I want to tell you about a miracle that happened to me in the next video, because my videos are done in such a way it takes 24 hours to upload them, and they're really hard to do. I don't have a lot of machinery here and equipment to make videos. And so what I want you to do is maintain my interest. Really quick, I want to close this out with something and show you something. This is another frame that I make, and I'll go really quick. My idea with this is to use this for a frame for building a radio. And eventually in the class, I want to build a radio that's duplicatable, that anybody can do. And I use these, make my own circuit boards and everything, and I want to make I got a design I've been working on. Now, I'm not a mathematician, I'm not an expert like Paul Carlson or anybody, but I want a radio that's duplicatable. And it's simple to make, and you can really understand how it's working and how to do things in it without being the biggest electronic whiz in the world. I believe the way that you were taught is important, because when I was a young fella, original homesteaders raised me, and they had a way of teaching to keep your interest. And anyway, teaching is the 4 rules we want to teach. Look, hear, see, and think. You got to apply them techniques to learning, and that will really help you. Anyway, I would like to thank you for watching this video. Record. So what we can record like. And I want to tell you about a miracle in my life in the middle of all these things that have happened, and I'm in trouble. I got to go back to the U.S. This time it's going to be really bad. But this time it's going to be really important. And anyway, remember, I want to tell you something. I'm an Army veteran, and escape and evasion is the way that I'm 69 years old, but you got to do what you got to do to love your neighbor. Anyway, thank you for the movie, and God bless Ham Radio, and God bless you for putting up with me. Bye.